Christopher Selman, a father who killed his own child the first time he was left alone with her, is serving 5 years for manslaughter. Ashley Wade cut a fetus from a nearly 9-month pregnant woman. She was charged with second-degree murder. Both of them were incarcerated due to killing a child shortly after birth. So why is it okay that killing a baby before they are born? I was a pregnant teenager living with family and friends who were insisting that I get an abortion. Abortions are very common and, in my eyes, completely inappropriate. Based on state-level data, an estimated 908,000 United States abortions took place in 2015. That is 2,487 lives that were taken away a day. The highest number of abortions occurred in California, New York, and Florida. The fewest occurred in Wyoming, South Dakota, and North Dakota. Since the topic of abortions is so broad, I will discuss partial birth abortions, or known as late-term abortions. This form of abortion is torturous to babies. Partial birth abortions is a procedure typically done between 4 and 6 months of pregnancy. While listening to these steps, keep in mind that a baby's heart begins to beat only 24 days after conception, and brain waves can be recorded at only 43 days. A baby can survive outside the mother only 6 months after conception. In partial birth abortions, however, the delivery is 85% complete. The child is not on the inside of the mother, it's on the outside. The procedure is done in 5 steps. The first step is that the abortion will reach up and grab the baby's legs with forceps. This is done so the baby can come out feet first. Then the abortionist pulls the living baby feet first out of the womb and into the birth canal. Everything except the head. They then puncture the base of the baby's skull with a surgical instrument. The abortionist then inserts a catheter into the puncture and removes the baby's brain. This causes the skull to collapse. Brenda Pratt Schaefer, a registered nurse from Dayton, Ohio, assisted a doctor in a partial birth abortion. This was done on a 26-and-a-half-week preborn baby boy. She testified before the Senate committee about what she had witnessed. According to Nurse Schaefer, the baby was alive and moving as the abortionist delivered the baby's body and arms, everything but the head. The doctor kept the baby's head just inside the uterus. The baby's little fingers were clasping and unclasping, and his feet were kicking. Then the doctor stuck the scissors through the back of his head, and the baby's arms jerked out in a flinch, a startle reaction like a baby does when he thinks he might fall. The doctor opened up the scissors, stuck a high-powered suction tube into the opening, and sucked the baby's brains out. Now the baby was completely limp. Since 2003, there has been a Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act that amends the Federal Criminal Code to prohibit any physician or other individual from knowingly performing a partial birth abortion except when it's necessary to save the life of a mother whose life is endangered by a physical disorder, illness, or injury. This also authorizes a defendant accused of an offense under this act to seek a hearing before the state medical board on whether the physician's conduct was necessary to save the life of the mother. 19 states have their own bans, while 43 states impose some kind of restrictions on abortions later in pregnancy. Partial birth abortions are performed 3,000 to 5,000 times annually. Most of these are performed in the 5th and 6th months of pregnancy on healthy babies of healthy mothers. While most babies are in their 20th to 24th week when aborted in this manner, babies are aborted as late as the 9th month. This was admitted by an abortionist, Dr. McMahon, who in 1995 submitted to the House Constitution Subcommittee a graph and explanation that showed he aborted healthy babies even in the third trimester. An article in the LA Times listed some of the medical reasons for this type of an abortion. They include cleft palates, cystic hygroma, and cystic fibrosis. These medical conditions present in the mothers that warranted this type of abortions were depression, chickenpox, diabetes, or vomiting. In other words, even those partial birth abortions that are done on the health of the mother or because of a defective fetus are often performed for minor, easily correctable conditions. Psychological or emotional damage to the women or teen is more common and can be more intense with late-term abortions than with abortions. With this said, what's the point? Many abortion doctors began performing abortions because they felt they were helping women, but later stopped and began speaking out against abortions. Here are some direct quotes from some of these doctors. Dr. Anthony Levato did abortions for 8 years as a part of his practice, performing dilation and evacuation in late-term abortions. As he stated, you are pulling out pieces of unborn children. He was vaguely troubled by the work, but continued to do it for the money. He stated it's highly profitable. I could do 3 abortions in my office in an hour and a half and make more than caring for a woman 9 months and delivering her baby. It took a personal tragedy to prompt a change of heart. While he was doing abortions as a resident, he and his wife were trying desperately to have a child. His words were, "There I was, throwing kids in a garbage bag, 5 or 6 a week. Just give me one," I thought. Eventually they adopted a little girl and named her Heather. Several years later, Heather was killed in a car in front of their home. She died in her father's arms. His thoughts were, if you lose a child, you look at things differently. What was once uncomfortable becomes intolerable. You feel that you are destroying a human for money, like a paid assassin. This is somebody's child. I lost my child, someone who was very precious to us, and now I'm taking somebody else's child and tearing him right out of their womb. I am killing somebody's child. That is what it took to get me to change. All the money in the world wouldn't have made a difference, so I quit. I slept a lot better at night after all that. Most people wonder if the fetus is alive during this procedure. The answer is yes. On July 11, 1995, American Medical News submitted the transcript of a tape-recorded interview with an abortionist, Dr. Haskell, to the House committee in which he admitted that the majority of fetuses aborted this way are alive up until the end of the procedure. The chilling truth is this: partial birth abortions is not really an abortion. It's infanticide. It's the killing of an innocent human child outside of its mother. Most mothers often say that they will die for their child. If this is the case, why are they killing their child to save themselves? As a mother myself, I would have done everything in my power to make sure my baby came out as healthy as possible, even if it affected my life. With that being said, I'm against abortions in all, especially this form. These babies are inches from being born. Many could be born and placed directly in the loving arms of childless couples for adoption. The emerging baby is clearly not the mother's body, not a piece of tissue or even a fetus, but a child's body coming forth from hers. It's her son or daughter squirming and writhing and struggling to complete its entry into the outside world. Instead, they are cruelly killed. Some call this abortion. No matter what you call it, a couple more inches out of the womb, and this act would be called murder.